Good afternoon. I'm Megan Guy, Director of the Stewart Center for Executive Education at the A.B. Freeman School of Business. Thank you for joining us today for our second webinar in a series of conversations addressing issues that are front of mind to businesses and the greater Freeman community during these uncertain times. The idea for this series was born from the same principle underlying all of the non-degreed and degreed executive education programs at Freeman, namely, to offer opportunities to executives to learn what they need to know now with little or no interruption to their careers. We do this in two ways: by housing an executive MBA program that allows experienced professionals to obtain a degree while still working, and by partnering directly with businesses and organizations to design non-degreed programs tailored to achieve their specific goals. I'm thrilled to be introducing today's webinar on hospitality in the age of social distancing. I will now turn it over to my colleague, AJ Brooks, who will introduce our very distinguished guests and get things started. Thank you so much for joining us. I encourage you to ask questions and keep an eye out for announcements on our future installments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. Welcome, everyone. My name is AJ Brooks. I am the Assistant Director for Entrepreneurial Hospitality at the Freeman School. I also am a lecturer in both finance and management. And today we're here to talk about hospitality in the age of social distancing. And we're really lucky because we have two exceptional leaders in this industry to join us. But before I introduce them, just a couple of notes. And, you know, I'm going to start with a news flash here, and for those of you who don't know, the hospitality industry as we know it has been completely decimated over the past few months. We've seen, in terms of hotels, we've seen occupancies that should be around 80% drop to about under 20% in April. Right now, we're kind of hovering at that 43% number, but it's still very, very low compared to what it should be or what would have been last year. In terms of restaurants, we've got a $1 trillion industry here that employs about 15.6 million people nationwide, 8 million of which are currently out of work. So we're going into some headwinds here, and that's not really just those servers and people who work in the restaurants. We have to think about the entire supply chain, from farmers, distributors, packagers, delivery guys. I mean, you name it, and this entire industry has been completely shaken from head to toe. So I just kind of wanted to lance that boil before we started out, because I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a therapy session, or at least I'm hoping it will be. But at that same vein, there's still reason for optimism. We've seen companies really start to innovate at an unprecedented level. I promised myself I wouldn't say unprecedented, but there I go. But we've seen some really interesting things, and today we're actually lucky enough to have two of those innovators with us. So with that, I'd like to introduce our speakers. First, we have Robert Balzebre, Balzebre Investments. This company holds commercial real estate properties throughout the country, notably in Florida, Texas, California, and here in Louisiana. They specialize in hotel and lodging investments throughout the country. And it's interesting to kind of bring this back home to New Orleans. Robert's been involved in, was just approved for an extended stay hotel in the Bywater neighborhood near Crescent Park. So that's very exciting. I'll be interested to see how that's going along and what the plans are for the future. And on a second note, he actually is co-partner with his daughter, Christine, who runs Levy Baking Company, which, save your comments till the end, but I would argue has some of the best bread in the city of New Orleans. So welcome, Robert. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And our second guest really doesn't need that much of an introduction, I would hope. But alas, it's my pleasure to welcome T. Martin as well. So T is the co-proprietor of Commander's Palace, among a lot of other things. In fact, she just recently opened Picnic Provisions and Whiskey, which, again, save your comments till the end, but I would argue has the best fried chicken sandwich in the city of New Orleans. So I'm kissing up to both of you right now, just so you know. We've also got T. I mean, T is an advocate for the city of New Orleans, both in a business perspective as well as a civic perspective. Her accolades and credentials and awards would take up half of this webinar, so I'm sorry. But I just want to thank her because she is a sought after guest and speaker. So T, welcome so much.
Good to see you, AJ and Robert.
Oh yeah, and AJ, just to clarify one thing, Christina she's my niece. She's not my daughter. As much as I'd like to claim her as my daughter, just so in case you have to visit there again and ask who her father is.
Gotcha. Well, let's start at the beginning. So I want to throw out this big question to both of you. Let's start the therapy session, if you will. Can we walk back to February, March of 2020 and walk me through when this started to surface as a really severe, life-changing, business-altering event, and how you dealt with that crisis as an organization, and kind of where we are right now in terms of your own organizations. And T, I'd like to start with you on that one, if that's all right.
Oh, I don't know. Just over here rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. But I'm laughing, and you got to laugh to get through this deal, because this really has been a financial bloodbath, as you alluded to, for our industry. And our state is so dependent on our industry, and then you throw in oil as another industry that we have, and that's not doing well either. But we had just had one of the best years we've ever had, and we closed about March 16th. And as you know, I mean, it happened so fast. I don't know about you all, but I certainly enjoyed Mardi Gras and did not think that was a bad thing to do. And then it happened very quickly. But we pivoted quickly. We quickly got into takeout food, and the team was all in, and the culture in restaurants in general, I think, but certainly in ours, has always been, you never close. Like, that hurricane's coming, but we're not going to close till we absolutely have to. So we tried, and then when we needed to, we did. And then we kind of got this little credo going at the beginning, as we would meet every day, and we would continue to have the team in to have employee meal and family meal. And we said, look, we don't know what's going on here, but we sort of vow to make it through to the other side of this thing, doing as much as we can for ourselves and our team, for each other, and for as many other people as we could. And that's just sort of led us through this whole thing. So, but we quickly went to go food, and the team was all in, and they're into it. And then almost overnight, they weren't. And they got uncomfortable with the closeness in the kitchen with certain types of cooking. So we stopped, and we've made decisions very collectively and collaborated. But then, quickly we got into some other things. But at that time, it was just shocking. And I remember all the meetings, every meeting, and I still do this. I say to everybody, okay, everybody raise your hand and let me know when you think this whole thing will be over and when we'll be open again. And it's funny to go back and look. I mean, one person in March 15th said that we'd be open again in 2 weeks. So I did not say that. I have been, I think, a realist in this thing most of the time. And that's helped us with a bunch of our decisions. But I had never heard of PPP at that time, and it was a beautiful time to have not heard of that. So that's what we were doing at that moment anyway, much since then.
So just real quick follow-up, you mentioned PPP. How was that process? Did you apply and did you receive any funds?
That's one of the bigger nightmares I've ever been in, the expression of you're going to build the plane while you're flying it. I mean, it was just 4 a.m. reading 80 pages of documents and still not knowing what the hell it said. And then, getting directives from every other person. So it was so well intended and such a mess. It now might help. We're not even sure if we'll use it yet. But it was really a nightmare. I have felt like during this thing, if I could give small businesses in Louisiana and everywhere a gift during this, it'd be a damn good CPA. And I know this will make Ira very happy. So please report that I said that. But I'm not kidding, because that has been the biggest guide, the great attorney, the great CPA, most important, an attorney where needed. It was the biggest nightmare I've ever been through of that type.
Gotcha. Robert, would you like to chime in? How did it go from day one?
It was, my experience was, it sounds very similar to T. And we have a hotel in the middle of South Beach, and in the middle of all the activity. We had just come off of the Super Bowl, which were giving us some of our highest rates we've ever had in the hotel business that I've been in for 20 years. We were forecasting the best year ever for a lot of our different properties. And then literally within 2 weeks, we went from the height of what was going to be a great year and all financial success down to the absolute abyss. We were ordered by the city in Miami Beach to shut down all hotels. So we went from 100% occupancy right down to zero. We were prepared. I mean, and being in New Orleans and Miami gave me some preparation for disaster because of the hurricanes that we have to deal with. So we sort of immediately reflexively went into that mode and sort of shutting down the property. But the thing is, you still have to maintain an asset. So you're always going to have people on staff to keep the lights going, to make sure everything's running. And but it was difficult. It was certainly difficult. We had to do a lot of learning as we go, and we had similar. We applied for the PPP. We didn't make it on the first round. It was all used up. We were lucky to get it on the second round. I think it's offering a relief, but by no means is that going to save the day. I think for everybody, it's just a Band-Aid on a huge gash. So it's about pivoting and making common sense decisions, slashing costs wherever we have to, and then really getting up to speed on the procedures we put into place now that we start to reopen.
Got it. So you both mentioned the word pivoting. Can we all just agree that that is the business word of 2020? I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, that's the word.
So let's stay just for a moment on this this PPP subject, because I'm interested in the relationship that you have with your lenders, because obviously in the hotel industry, they don't want to be handed the keys to a hotel that has a 0% occupancy that really has no prospects. So what has that conversation been like with your investors and your lenders in terms of, who's left holding the bag, and how have you worked together, and what is the sentiment that they've given you so far?
Well, for me, it's a very, it's been, I can sense the uneasiness among some lenders and how, because they don't want to be deluged with a bunch of assets and a bunch of owners handing back the keys essentially to things that have no occupancy, right? So they're obviously willing to work out situations, and I think my lenders in particular have been accommodating. But I was already in the midst of refinancing, so I really took advantage of whatever I could take advantage in terms of the opportunities that are presented right now, which are obviously low rates. So I was able to secure very low rates, lock those in, decrease some of the cash expense, as well as incorporating the PPP loan into that. And these are the ways you have to just sort of keep crawling back to reopening and patch and repair what you can do. But working with the lenders has been really great. And it's great to have a long-term relationship and a good relationship with the lenders. But for the most part, they understand. They're willing to give forbearance and extensions, I think, to most clients. And they realize this is a long-term, there's a short-term impact to everybody right now, but there's a long-term impact as well. And I mean, I just encourage people to really work with their lenders, establish a relationship, talk to them, be proactive, and tell them in advance, what are your forecasts looking like? What does the future look like? So they can be prepared as well.
Got it. So in that same vein, Robert mentioned cash. What do you do when the cash dries up, and how have you been able to generate revenue with a closed restaurant? Or have you? Has there been any alternative channels that you've been able to explore since this thing dropped, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, we don't have a ton of debt. We have long-term banking relationships though, and I I really think that's been kind of an awful part of the PPP, that if you didn't have one of those relationships, you likely didn't get a loan, and that's just rough and wrong. But anyway, for us, Commanders was closed 13 months during Katrina, and our restaurant in Houston burned down, and after that, in a different hurricane. So we, believed in having some money in the piggy bank, and that's unusual, I think, for most small, medium-sized businesses. So we're lucky that we had some reserves. But I mean, I want to, ask people to think about, if you had a small business, I mean, how much would you keep there? I mean, how much would you keep for this rainy day? I used to be criticized for how much I wanted to keep there. I haven't heard that criticism lately, and darn glad that we did that. So we're lasting on those reserves for right now, and we all know that there's opportunities at times like this, and so as some things have come up, and I've talked to my banker. It's pretty damn funny when you're talking to your banker about loaning you money and you have no income. We're closed. What are your cash flows? Going the wrong way. So it's an interesting kind of like, either you believe this thing's going to turn around or we'll be back and you want to be a part of this deal, or you don't. I mean, it's that simple, so it's interesting. I am pretty angry about the folks not getting PPP due to not having those banking relationships. So.
Right. So just on that same front, for T, for those of you who are on this webinar and don't know, Commander's Palace is a staple of the New Orleans restaurant scene, has been for decades, and is really the one of our treasures as a city. Now, on that same front, you recently opened up another restaurant, Picnic, Provisions and Whiskey. What are the dynamics there in terms of those two restaurants? I mean, you have Commanders, which has all of this brand recognition, and Picnic does too, but probably not to the same extent, but is also a very experience-oriented restaurant. I mean, you've got the waiting service is, I mean, it's well known at Commanders. Picnic is a family-friendly kind of corner restaurant in on a commercial corridor, as charming as it can be. What have been the differences between that more high-end versus that fast casual, those two segments?
Well, the good news at Picnic is, and for smaller businesses, the PPP works pretty well once they extended it anyway. So that's worked pretty well for Picnic, and Picnic was designed to be takeout, delivery, and dine-in, even though it's tiny, and we wanted to do as much as we could in a tiny little space and little outdoor space. But so what's happened since we've reopened is that the delivery and takeout have increased, which we struggled with before. Everybody just thought it was so cute and wanted to come eat in there, and they weren't thinking of us for takeout and delivery. And so we've been able to really improve that there. I mean, we don't have full dine-in or anything, but when you say 50% space or 75% space or 25% capacity at Picnic, it's really no different. It's so little. It's like, okay, we got these 4 tables that we can use, out of what we have, and that's it. So, but then we've got another, handful outside. So Picnic, it's gone pretty well, and the PPP worked well for businesses that kept going, and or these smaller businesses. So that's gone well. Now, the thing about Commanders is it's such a high overhead that we're not open because it doesn't make any sense to be open. I'm sure when I do open, it still won't make sense, but at some point we'll just do it. But I really feel like, we are doing multiple other things, which I'm happy to talk about. And we're losing money, but we're losing less money. And if we open, we think we'd be losing even more money. So that's where we are right now. But these other things we've gone to are kind of amazing. And this would have never happened, I don't think, without COVID. So.
Gotcha. We're going to come back to those other things really quickly. So Robert, let's stay in the same vein of, the customer's journey. You've got several hotel properties across the country. Surf Comer in Miami is probably one of the more recognized. How has the customer journey changed because of this? And what do you see kind of moving forward in general in your organization as well as the industry across the board?
Well, it's the idea of the customer experience has changed completely since before the pandemic. So, and we're still discovering new aspects of what that customer expects and is going to see. So, before it was about as much touch and feel, as many touch points, all those different ways that we can really show the best customer, hospitality, warm, gracious experience to the guest. Now it's almost like, stay away from me at least 6 feet, and but you're still here to have a wonderful time. So it's a lot more effort to create an illusion of that, but we're coming up with ways to do that. The first thing we do is to make sure every employee feels fully comfortable in the way that they're geared up, because they have to wear a mask, they have to wear certain equipment, and that makes them comfortable with the experience that they're going to give the guests. You can tell, and the customer can tell if an employee who's happy and feels safe, if they're smiling behind their mask, if they have a cheerful attitude, if they're going to still be extending that same good energy that they were prior to all this happening. And that guest is looking for a place to escape. We had to open our doors. Even if we're losing money, we have to open our doors, because a hotel with a shut door makes nothing. So that's what we're coming up with now, and we're creating. We have all the right type of distancing signs in place, sanitation stations in place, all the equipment to help the customer feel comfortable, but getting the message out that we're completely clean, and we've really worked with, being a brand, I think, is going to be exceptionally helpful during this time as a hotel, because there's, point systems in place to guarantee that sanitation and make sure that the customer feels completely comfortable in their surroundings. So that's what we're doing.
That sounds great. T, I'm going to throw that question to you, as well as learn about some of the things that you mentioned in your previous answer that you've identified, and some of the opportunities that you've been doing to press forward in this situation.
Okay, well, but quickly to love hearing what Robert was saying about the things you have to do to create that illusion of the experience. I just love that. And we literally have always worked at Commanders on body language, literally. And so, with this whole mask thing, and you don't know if I'm smiling or not, and that whole thing, we're just ramping that up. But, we literally believe in, gestures and showing people the way. And what's wrong with putting your hands over your chest and nodding your head and almost a little, bow of recognition. So these are some of the things that we're going to that we hope can convey that hospitality. But as to the other things we got into, we got into the to-go food, and that went really, really well until we quit because everybody was nervous. But now we're doing it again. It's going well. We had actually been working with this company called Goldbelly, that is something that, sort of a lot of iconic restaurants around the country, whether it's a pastrami sandwich from New York or stone crabs from Joe's in Florida. And we'd been working with them before, but didn't quite have enough time to, nail it down. Well, we got into it fast, and it took off for us. And so our people were comfortable doing that type of cooking, where we weren't cooking a la minute, where we have to be so close to each other. So it worked beautifully for us, and we just threw ourselves into both of those things. And then we also became aware that we could sell our wine to guests, as long as there was some food with it. That's probably going to end at some point, and I hope all the laws around alcohol get fixed in the midst of all this. But then we decided, because part of our hospitality is the connection that Robert was referring to, that we've always felt, we're in the business of making dining memories, but it's also about experiences and bringing people together. All that in mind, we said, hey, let's just try this we called it the Commander's Palace Don't Stand Too Close to Me cocktail party, Zoom. And if you sign up and you buy the ticket to that, then we will deliver to you wine and cheese. And what you'll get to do is be on the Zoom with our wine guy, Dan Davis, and our chef, Tori McPhail, and my cousin Lally and I, and learn about pairing but in a really funny way. And the first one we sent out had like a French theme, and people sort of wore some berets, and we encouraged that. Well, it's just amazing what happened. They hadn't had fun. I mean, they hadn't been to a party in months, right? So they were happy to go to any frickin' kind of party. So they came to this thing. We were very irreverent and silly. A lot of them dressed up. And so we kept that going. I think we're 12 weeks in now as of last night. And if I have a tiny little hangover, that's why. And it's kind of taken off. There's thousands of people on this thing. And then we put the camera on them a lot. And they love that. And then at the end, it's like a brawl. We just turn, everybody's off of mute and screaming and yelling at each other. And the chat going on the whole time is, hey, AJ, hadn't seen you, and, you know, ribbing you about something. Anyway, this thing's taken off. And now there's people who want us to make a TV show about the Zoom show.
Yes.
I mean, like, whatever. And we've done some things where we're able to do it regionally. We can do about 188 deliveries. So like my general manager and everybody's, you know, and my cousin Lally and me are making deliveries to people's homes. And, you know, we want you to learn something, but we want you to have fun. If you learn something, it's kind of by accident, you know, in the midst of having fun. So that's gone extremely well. Goldbelly's gone extremely well. And, you know, we've had to like rip out some spaces I mean, if you're going to send out 100 boxes of quail and pecan pie and whatever, do you know how many gel packs you need to do that? It's just like, where are we going to put the gel packs in the boxes and the whatever? So we've had to learn a lot, but the team has loved the energy of that, and they've been all in. And we tried a bunch of other things. Some things worked and some things didn't. These are the things that kind of stuck, and I think that they'll be with us for a long time.
Even after there's a vaccine.
I think so. It feels very sticky, you know, but we'll see. You know, we can't wait to get back to doing what we do. But we were heading in the to-go food direction anyway. I mean, picnic was a little bit of a step in that direction, and there's another little something we were going to do. And so we were going in that direction anyway. So that'll stick. I think the show, we'll see. We call it a show. I don't know what else to call it. And my managers are like producers. You should see this whole setup that we do from our wine cellar. It's just ridiculous but fun. So we're thinking some of it will stick. We do.
Don't hear the word cellar in New Orleans all the time, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it's true. It's not technically a cellar, but it's very enclosed, and it does take good care of our wine.
Well, thank you. I love that. I think those are two amazing examples. So, Robert, I mean, we haven't really discussed this, but are there some other quote unquote things in your pipeline that you're kind of branching out, or are you sheltering from the storm?
Well, I would say right now, you know, it's early to look at new opportunities. We had some things that were happening right before this happened. And we put some of that on hold just to wait until, you know, the earth stops moving and we get a grip on also making sure that we retain enough reserves available to carry us through this. But, you know, I'm excited about the future. I'm an optimist. This is going to come back in terms of an industry. We're going to get there. You know, our first day open, we started at, you know, 10% occupancy. We've gone up to 20%, up to 30. And as of last week, we're at 40, 50%. So that's a 500% increase, right? So we, you know, we're going up. And what I will do is look back, you know, brush off what we had on the shelf. And it's a good time to start looking at those again. The project in Bywater that I talked about, which is extended stay with a rooftop bar and ground floor commercial space. That'd be perfect for something like picnic. So we can talk about that later.
Bywater.
And so yeah, we're very excited to start looking at things, but it's still early, and you're going to see, you know, opportunities and distressed assets. There's going to be some people that just were not prepared for this. They can't hold on. And, you know, there's going to be ways to get into that too. But we're going to be fine. And we're preparing ourselves in the right way.
Got it. Now, real quick, you mentioned 50% occupancy. Do you have all of your amenities open? Because I did a staycation at the Hyatt the other day, and I got kicked out of the pool with my kids, which was embarrassing. A 3 and 4-year-old got kicked out of the pool for the first time. So I'm just wondering, do you have your different outlets open?
We have, we used to have a day life activity program. We would have yoga classes. It was a whole, that was the sort of subset of amenities that we provided to the guests. We've limited some of that because it created a lot of interaction, and we can't do that in social distancing. But, people come to our hotel for the beach and for the pool. We took the opportunity of being shut down in order to drain the pool, retile it, make it new again, touch every aspect of the hotel that we couldn't get to when we were under full occupancy. So now we can, give the guests as much as we can now that we're back open. Yeah.
Got it. All right, I'm being told that it is time to open up this session to some audience questions. So, okay, Robert, starting with you, actually, we just covered this. What are occupancy rates in the Gulf South region? And what are the trajectories or the trajectory of those rates?
New Orleans didn't really shut down completely, although it just didn't make sense for some hotels to stay open because it's much better to just close at a certain point if you're going to have 5% occupancy. They've been inching up on the Gulf South region. You're going to be much better off if you're in a leisure destination than you are if you're in an urban or group type of destination. And it sort of flips, the whole concept because, usually in the past, it was better off to have the steady flow of a group business hotel next to a convention center. Those days are changing right now. We don't know when group business will be back. It will be quite some time, and it's going to take a lot of convincing, and people are going to need to be really comfortable with this virus and traveling, and then, the interference of Zoom into all this. But to answer the question precisely, we're going from what was about 0 or 10% occupancy in the Gulf South region to in leisure destinations up to 40 and 50% on good days.
Got it. Now this next question could be applied to both of you, but T, I'm going to put it towards you. How are supply chain inefficiencies limiting restaurants? How are those limits preventing restaurants from supporting restaurant customer needs? So talking about the supply chain, what have you been hearing from your distributors and as far up and down as you want to go?
It's not horrible, but it's just weird. Like if you would like chicken, there's one type of chicken. And that's, changing again already. And then there'll be something else that you just can't get. But it's nothing that's stopping us from doing anything. We can just change and cook something else, But so, yeah, that's not been our biggest problem. Things like air filters or things that you want to get, these new air filters, you want whatnot. And it's like, yeah, that'll be 8 weeks. You're like, okay, so at least we can all get toilet paper now. That's good, right? So.
I haven't gotten any for a long time. You learn to adapt.
Hey now, come on.
So,
I said it, yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, this is a good one. So this one has to do with technology. And this goes to both of you. Robert, how has technology played a role in this entire process, and what are you going to keep? What are you going to scrap when things hopefully go back to normal?
Technology was already playing a huge role in the way that rooms were booked, in the way that people made contact with the hotel initially, came across it. But what was really in its infancy in technology with hotels, which was mobile check-in, direct to your door access without having to interact with the front desk. Those types of really mobile application technology devices and applications have now been completely cemented. Going forward, it's just going to be more of that. You'll see that across the board in all types of hotels. And so, a lot of systems will need to be upgraded in order to conform with that. But Yeah, technology's been a game changer. A lot of our meetings now, the way that we motivate staff and interact with them is through Zoom, things like that. So that's going to stick. This is all here to stay, for sure.
T, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, we're just a restaurant, and all of a sudden we need technology for everything. I mean, at Picnic, we wish we had a even better app, just to make it simple for you to order and you can do it. But I'd like that to be better. The Zoom show, no clue what we're doing, and we everything we're doing, we need technical help, and there'll be one poor soul in the restaurant who's kind of good at it, and then they're trying to, spit and glue and tape, so we need, I never thought we'd need, a full-time IT person, and they need to know a lot of different stuff. We need a ton of help. And the digital adoption is amazing. I actually read that Taco Bell said the other day that the digital adoption of their customers, what would have taken 2 years, has happened in 2 months. Wow. And it's just stunning how people like me, maybe, who don't do as much of that, I'm not heavy into it, I don't do social media, whatever, have just had to do it, and they're sticking with it. The other thing that's happened is check averages have gone up, in that people are ordering more, for their whole family or whatnot. And, so there's been some fast, interesting changes.
Very interesting. So we have another kind of area that Taylor just brought up, and that's marketing. I'm interested in this area too, in terms of the messaging that you have to your guests. What kind of tone is appropriate, whether it's social or, email blasts or whatnot. How have you changed or not changed the way you approach marketing and speaking with your guests? And T, let's start with you, and we'll go over to Rob.
Sure. Go to me. Okay. No, it's gotten really interesting. And you have to, in this time, for a whole bunch of reasons, you want to be really intentional about what you're communicating when and how. So I am very interested in all of that. And I welcome these conversations happening in a broad range of things. But so, yeah, it's been mostly social media. We have been able to maintain some level of PR. That's, valuable in our industry, I think, all of it. So we're doing the same thing, but we're getting very, very, as I said, intentional about it. And there's just certain things that you would have done before without thinking that you wouldn't do now. If it's a holiday for such and such, okay, well, don't do anything on that holiday, and I welcome all of this. I welcome the whole, whether it's, Black Lives Matter. I didn't think anything could push the Me Too movement to the side, but anyway, this has been all good. So communicating about all that, an important thing for us has been to share with our guests and employees what we're doing. And we've tried to do a lot of charitable things as we, go broke. So, but we've tried to share all of that as much as we can.
Very good. Robert, you want to comment on your marketing strategy?
Yeah, we started out a lot of our marketing strategy in the past was sort of tongue in cheek and a little bit salty. So we toned that down, and it's a little bit more gentle, letting people know we're open. Number one, we are, what to expect as part of their experience when they come to our hotel. So the first thing they want to know is how clean is the hotel going to be. Right. And we get into, a lot of detail. We branded with, through our brand Kimpton, with the Cleveland Clinic, to have, a really intensive cleaning system. Each room has to be shut down for 72 hours after a checkout to try to dissipate any type of traces so, they want to know all those details. We got it for them. We communicate it. We're transparent. And, we spread that messaging as much as we can across the board. And then slowly we get into a little bit more cheeky, fun, this is going to be great type of message after that.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask a self-serving question from Gene Hertzman, who is the director of New Mexico State University's School of Hotel, Restaurant, and Tourism Management. So as you all know, Tulane has started programming in the hospitality industry as well. So Gene asks, what are the most important things we can teach our students about what will be the new normal for the hospitality and tourism industry? What jobs should they be preparing themselves for? Robert, go for it.
Well, you know, the job that they're going to prepare themselves for, you know, a hotel is a microcosm of different businesses, right? So you've got finance, you've got cleaning, you've got front desk, you've got, you know, back of house management, and you've got restaurants and chefs and servers. So, you know, the best way to prepare, I think, to go into this business is to become just informed, stay informed, get in touch with your local convention and visitors bureau, understand what their marketing efforts are, how they're approaching this, what's coming down the pipeline, really get involved in the knowledge of what's happening so that you can understand what the hotelier and what the hotel expects of you. And you have to, you know, you got to sort of use your common sense. You're going to be put into situations where you might have multiple different roles now. There's going to be efficiencies because hotels can't hire back all the same amount of staff. It's too expensive. So you might have to wear a lot of different hats, and you got to be flexible. You gotta make sure that you can, you know, sort of jump from and not feel like it's, oh, well, that's not my work, I can't do that. No, if you got to go, you know, pick up a couple things that, you know, need to happen immediately and be brought to the hotel, pitch in, make it happen, and be part of a team that makes the whole thing work right now.
No job too big or too small, right?
Exactly.
Well, just real quick, I mean, have you created any new positions because of COVID at this point?
We have not, we haven't, we don't really have a COVID designated person, but we have sort of educated everybody else on how to do other people's jobs. So, you know, we have managers that are doing front desk check-ins and so all these different things, everybody's pitching in to because they know this is a difficult time, we're in it together. If we can't get, you know, the bottom line right, you know, no one's going to be able to stay there and have a job. So it's good. We're all learning again each other and why everybody has an important role to make it, you know, it's like putting on a Broadway show every day when you run a hotel. So we're all pitching in to put on that experience.
Got it. T, you want to talk about your Broadway show?
Yeah, 2 shows daily. I mean, I can't add a lot to what Robert said. He's just on the money. You know, when I've got my front of house manager and wine guy running around here in shorts, packing up gold belly boxes at 7 in the morning, you know, everybody's going to do a little bit of everything. So I hope the students, they've just got to have that mindset now. And, you know, I'm the whatever job they think they have, and I don't want to do these other things. It's just, I don't know. I hope that's a thing of the past. So, and of course, I do hope that they will get the broad knowledge Robert suggests, and if they can learn tech in all of that, you know, in every aspect, if you know, Posy Touch, and if you know Talk, and if you know all this stuff, plus some new things that we need, man, we'll be looking at you strong.
Right. So no chief COVID response officer yet.
Oh yeah, we have designated people. But I mean, it's kind of me. And I have to share that Noki, this culinary school that we've started here in New Orleans, has a program called HOSP, H-O-S-P, that is great for our industry. It's just come out and people can buy it for their employees and sort of pay what you can afford thing. So we need as many experts on this as we can get. But making your plan for what's going to happen when somebody inevitably in your organization gets, you know, COVID, you know, all those things you've got to do. So yeah, we do have designated folks.
Gotcha. All right, this question's been asked twice now, so I have to get to it. But have you or what are you doing to establish a COVID-free zone around your restaurants and hotels, if anything? Is there such a thing as a COVID-free zone?
I'm sure you have that figured out, Robert, right?
Yeah, we got it all figured out. So what we do have is we have from the minute that you walk up, there's a doorman, you don't touch the door. There's signs on the ground in terms of how close you are to the front desk when you're checking in. There's screens at the front desk, plexiglass. So you have limited context. All the familiar things you're already seeing in place they're all there. So we have everything, all the furniture has been rearranged so that you have certain distance between people. So, and even when you go out by the pool, we have, we're lucky, we have a large property, we're able to segregate people in their own little private areas and cabanas. So, and then on top of all that, we have every type of sanitation device, electrostatic spray device. So no, of course we can't be guaranteed that everything is 100% COVID free, but we take every precaution that we can to make sure, the guest understands, look, you're in a safe space.
Gotcha. T, I've been asked if you could repeat the program at Noki.
Oh,
HOSP, right?
HOSP. If you go to nochi.org, and then look for the link to HOSP. Oh, I forget what that stands for. Hospitality Operators, something and something. Anyway, we got epidemiologists and our curriculum folks and Rebecca G, and it was an amazing thing that we got into very, very quickly at Noki, and it's available, and it was done for our industry. So it's a good program. I mean, when we reopen at Commanders, we do temperature taking of our employees now and whatnot, and a lot of the things Robert referred to that you're all already familiar with, but we'll be taking our guests' temperatures, and we're going to try to make sure they know that before they get here. Mm-hmm. So we're just it's all about trust right now. And we know none of this is fail safe. We could do everything exactly right and still have an incident the next day. And so, but we think it might mitigate it. And so we're going to try it. We want to protect our team more than anything, and we want to protect our guests. And so we're going to do it, and we know we'll catch some grief for it.
Fair enough. I won't give you any grief, I promise. But I've been told to get some final thoughts, and I kind of want you to play, fortune teller here. And this is disclosure. This is just your opinion on what's to come. But if you could give us a few minutes on just how this has impacted you personally, organizationally, and what you see the future kind of bringing towards this industry. T, you were just speaking, so Robert, I'll get your final thoughts.
Well, look, we're still going through, I think the short-term impact of this, which is huge, but we're going to get through it. Hotels are here to stay. People are social animals. They want to get together, as well as restaurants. This is, we're sort of all learning our way through this, but we're going to get more comfortable with it. We're going to understand more eventually about the virus, and we'll eventually get to some type of therapy and or vaccine. But, until that time, people are going to take a little bit more risk. They want to get out there, they want to get together, and we're going to make it safe for them. The long-term impact is some of these procedures, a lot of these procedures, and a lot of the expectations for the guest are going to stay the same. The cleanliness factor, some of the other, factors that are involved in terms of how we clean the rooms, and their expectations, that's going to stay, but it's going to come back. I'm very optimistic about this business. I think, in 12 to 24 months, if nothing goes, off the charts again, we'll be back to pre-COVID type of levels in travel and destination. And I encourage people who are interested in this business to this is a great time to get into it. Tulane is an amazing resource in their entrepreneurial offerings in Noki, just like T mentioned. Get involved with those different programs and understand, because there's no better time to get into something when you can get this type of value of education and sort of baptism by fire about the industry, and be helpful in it. And we're going to come back. I have no doubt about that.
So because this is an educational webinar, if you were to go back to school, what's the one thing that you wish you would have learned in school that you didn't, you had to learn the hard way? That's on the spot.
I'm sure there's many things, but the one thing, you know, the one thing that I would, that's a hard question, but I would certainly take hard recognition of understanding a hotel's balance sheet, how that works, what the expenses are. Everybody just thinks a hotel just magically is open and runs. You have to understand, if you're in the hotel industry, how those expenses come into play. And this is on the other side of it, which most people don't think about, but and how you can manage those types of expenses to really keep everything operating and running smoothly and get through these types of crises and pandemics. Yeah.
Good answer to a hard question.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will pose that same question to you and give you the floor for some final thoughts.
Well, I love that answer, because I think too many people avoid the numbers part of things, and it will prevent your career from getting where it wants to go. When I have people who are sort of afraid of numbers, once you get into it, it's fun and the numbers start talking to you. So I totally agree with that. I also would say that I don't think the schools teach enough about leadership. Like right now, if there's not good leadership in an organization, whoo, are you in trouble? In a whole lot of different ways. So, you know, those things I would totally encourage folks to do. And I agree that it's a good time to get into our industry. And if you're interested, get in it and check it out. But if it gets under your skin, you know, like it has for me and probably Robert, I think you should ignore all the advice not to get into our industry, because there's nothing better when you feel the way we feel about delivering that experience. So those are just a few comments. I want to also say, though, that I do think it's an interesting time for our industry, and it's stopping us in our tracks. And I hope that we're using some of that time to relook at things. We got a lot to be proud of in our industry, and we got a lot we need to change. And so we welcome those conversations, and hope that our industry comes out of this in an even better place.
Well, it appears that Ira appreciates your comment on CPAs.
I knew he would.
Well, this has been great, guys. I can't thank you enough for taking your time and sharing your experiences with us, and you know, playing the fortune teller a little bit. I do thank you both, and I wish you the best for the future. And just on that same front, you know, Tulane's entrepreneurial hospitality programming is doing a lot of those things. I've been having these questions for a lot of people in the industry. What would you have liked to learn? And you know, what are you looking for in a potential student? And a lot of those same sentiments have been given to me. And I think that what we're trying to do with this program is really lean into our current situation. We are in this very strange time, and in this crisis, we tend to innovate. And so I see that both of you are kind of on the forefront of that innovation, and hopefully we can be sending some students your way to help you on your journey. So I do thank you both, and for everyone out there, I thank you so much. And if you have questions, we will post a link to where you can ask those, and you can also email them directly to us. But thank you both so much for being here, and I'll look forward to the third webinar.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Ira.
Thanks, Ira. Yes. Okay.